So let me talk about liaison and joint work, but we saw now that liaison and joint work can have a policy dimension. And here we are talking about the technical dimension of joint work and liaisons. So I myself, I'm a long-standing W3C team member, and I worked with Rutger van Waveren in 2004 because at the time we already had over 100 liaisons in W3C led by Daniel Dardaillet. And he did a master thesis. He wanted to know what is the importance of liaison, why are people doing liaisons, and what is the outcome of liaisons, what is the impact, what are the relations. And as a result of his master thesis, he invented the power to coordinate. And this is a soft power because W3C, the web, is nowadays, so when I started, we were totally new, and now it's in the center of the world. Everybody's using web technologies. So everybody is doing stuff with web technologies. That means W3C for fragmentation, for others, has to kind of get in relations. But that also means, according to Rutger, that we have a lot of influence in the SDO landscape. And also it means that the more we do liaisons, the more soft power we develop. That means we shouldn't be shy on liaisons, but of course, we need to make sure that our own values are represented. So we have now, as we can see, we have a long, very long tradition of liaisons. And recently, I started to take over, and I wanted to make a classification that informs the discussion on why are we doing liaisons. And the first one, and this is the largest portion of our around 100 liaisons, is others want to use or profile W3C technology. This is using HTML, this is using linked data, this is using device API definitions, this is using Web of Things definitions in a certain vertical context, in a certain technology. And typically they want to make sure that we do the right that they do the right thing. Then there is the other one where a W3C wants to use and profile some technology, especially in geospatial area, but also in other areas where we work with the IETF and others. There is W3C and another SDO working on the same thing, or where we want to avoid fragmentation. This doesn't mean that we have working jointly on the same thing. In the regular context, we have the Cyber Resilience Act. They are doing a browser security profile, and there we want to avoid fragmentation with what the W3C does in the security area. And so we reached out to ETC Cyber and started to talk to them about how to cooperate efficiently. It's still pending. And also W3C and another SDO want to band together to create more momentum. Sometimes when you want to create new technology, one SDO is not enough. So because we all have our own community, we want to have a broader community. It makes sense sometimes to make communities join each other to create more momentum, because the web is so huge that to get something new into the legacy is difficult. So where do we did this? We did this, for example, in the joint development with OGC on geospatial data. And then there is liaisons in the governmental context. There it's for me very difficult because I'm only a technical liaison, so I need to talk to Tara about the policy relations. And here you have a mix of technical and policy relations where the choice of a certain technology by the government already gives a value decision. And there we need to facilitate their choice for W3C technologies. Hence, we want to have want to have our the specifications recognized by them, overcome important restrictions using the TRIPS agreement. And using standards and regulation, for example, in the European Accessibility Directive. Then we have a typology of liaisons. So typically, the most of the time, this is simple informal cooperation. That means one working group in the IETF says, "Hey, but we are stepping on their territory. It's of a very good manner to ask them about their opinion." So they just reach out to the chair of the W3C working group and say, "Hey, this is what we are doing. What do you think about it?" And then the chair shares in their own group, and they give feedback and so on. And this is the simple informal cooperation. This has implications because this has nearly no implications. It's a very good thing because everybody is talking to each other, which avoids conflicts and so on. Then there is shared participation because they want. It's really so deep that they want to create working groups that talk really close to each other to avoid fragmentation, because the fragmentation can sometimes be very tricky and detailed. Then there are the confidentiality and IPR issues, because when you're working close together, somebody and one working group is under reasonable and non-discriminatory terms for patents, and the other one is on RF. You need to make sure that you don't catch up in your RF specification, that you don't catch up a RAND patent from the other side, and there you need agreements on how to handle that issue. Also, sometimes W3C is very transparent, very public, so we have very little confidentiality issues. Other bodies are much more closed. We produced in the past, we produced co-branded specifications together with OGC, having one specification carrying two logos, or having one specifications having two layouts. So there was an OGC specification which said exactly the same thing than a W3C specification. I try to avoid that. A common branding, yes, but two specifications, duplication, I would like to avoid that. So I'm rather in favor of the production of a common unique specification. There is submission of specifications to de jure SDOs. The ISO comes to our mind. So how what tools are are available to help us to frame those liaisons? Certainly, the informal cooperation, often people just ask team legal, is there any issue here? Should we have a more formal relation or not? And then in the dialogue, we find out that a simple liaison where just chairs and people from respective working groups are talking together is sufficient. Then there is often from the de jure organizations like ITU and ISO, we get liaison statements or letters of intent where a group reaches out, and this has repercussions on what you can access in ISO and ITU without paying membership or without paying for the specification and so on and so forth. So this is beneficial for us. Those liaison statements, we collect them and manage them. Then there are there is a memorandum of understanding. This is certainly a very good tool for confidentiality issues. Often it's also a way to clear the patent policy issues, but it's still not it's not fully formal. So at some point in time, you can go beyond the memorandum of understanding by having a cooperation agreement, but that is really then a very, very heavy instrument where you go through board meetings and all of that, which take a long time. And then there's mutual membership or membership of the other STO, for example, OASIS or GS1 are large standards organizations, but they are member of W3C, so they adhere to W3C rules, which frames then the cooperation. Here's some special liaisons. For example, we have the W3C has ISO pass status, public available specification, submission status, which means we can submit W3C specifications to ISO and get a ballot. And once we are successful with that ballot, we get an ISO number for our specification, while it still remains available as W3C specification on W3C website, which means we get the best of both worlds, the de jure or the formal world and the consortia or informal world, meaning we have a free available specification which can evolve fast, and we have the regulatory entry point via ISO. Then we have, for example, we are part of the multi-stakeholder platform on standardization. It's an expert committee and roundtable from the European Commission, and this commission or this committee gives recommendations on whether the European Union, which has a very special standardization system, is recognizing along a criteria of transparency, is recognizing whether a certain specification has been developed in a due process, and then can recognize, and once it's recognized and can be used in procurement. And currently a discussion is whether recognized specifications can also be used in regulatory context. Finally, we have a very special relation to IETF. We saw it already with joint workshops and joint discussion. But there's also joint talks and joint committees where we align each other. And there you need to talk to Philippe Le, who's doing that, and to Simone Onofri, who's also the current liaison. And then we have the OGC MOU for joint publication as an example. Recently, I started to revamp liaison because it was established in 2002 by Daniel Dadaye, was outdated, and there was a decision to renovate it, and I was appointed director of liaison. And I thought, a flat list is not really useful, so I made a new classification. I'm underway, perhaps, to get internal guidelines and templates. And also, I want to make a new information system, more like a knowledge graph, a searchable thing, where you have easier access to the number of liaisons we have. There's also the question on what to archive and how to archive it. And that's it from me.